I don't remember hearing the brakes screech. Maybe they didn't even have time to. All I remember is the sudden jolt, the force of something massive hitting me, and then the blinding pain. My body felt like it had shattered into pieces, every nerve screaming as I hit the ground. For a few moments, I was floating between consciousness and darkness. Voices buzzed in the background, faint and distorted, like I was underwater. A sharp, metallic taste filled my mouth, and I could barely move my limbs. When I finally managed to open my eyes, the world swam into focus in painful bursts. I was lying on the pavement, cold rain pooling around me. The sound of an engine idling nearby, distant shouts, and footsteps echoed in my head, but one voice cut through the chaos. "Oh God, I didn't see you," a man's voice stammered, breathless and panicked. I turned my head slowly, trying to make sense of what was happening. That voice. I knew that voice. I blinked hard, and my vision cleared enough to see a figure rushing toward me. His face was pale, stricken with shock. But I knew him. Even through the haze, I recognized him. Jason. It took a second for the realization to sink in. Jason, standing over me, eyes wide with guilt and fear, was the driver. The guy who hit me with his car was Jason, Claire's colleague. No, not just a colleague. Claire's lover. The man I'd been suspecting for months but had never been able to confront. "Jason." I croaked, my voice weak, barely audible. His eyes flicked down to me, panic flashing across his face. "Stay still, man. The ambulance is coming." Just stay still," he muttered, his hands trembling as he crouched beside me. I wanted to scream at him, to push him away, but my body wouldn't respond. My thoughts raced, the pain momentarily forgotten as the reality of the situation hit me like another blow. What was he doing here? How the hell did this happen? Was this some kind of freak accident? Or was it something else, something worse? I clenched my teeth, trying to focus, trying to think. But the pain was unbearable, clouding my judgment. All I could do was stare at him, my mind spinning with 1,000 questions. Jason's hands hovered nervously, unsure if he should touch me or not. He looked around frantically, like he was waiting for someone else to show up and take over. The rain continued to pour, soaking us both, but all I could see was his face, the face of the man who'd been sleeping with my wife. My wife. Claire. Did she know about this? Did she send him here? I tried to push the thought away, but it stuck, gnawing at me from the inside. This wasn't just bad luck, was it? No, it couldn't be. The timing was too perfect, too coincidental. The suspicion I'd been harboring about Claire and Jason, all the little signs I'd ignored, was this the final proof? I struggled to speak again, my throat raw. What the hell were you doing? I managed to choke out. Jason's face twisted with guilt. He glanced at the crowd forming around us, then leaned in closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "It was an accident, I swear. I didn't see you in time." "An accident?" I spat, my voice hoarse but laced with disbelief. "You hit me with your car, Jason. You. Claire's friend." He flinched at my words, his eyes darting around, like he was trying to figure out a way out of this nightmare. Look, I swear, I didn't mean to." He stopped, swallowed hard, and looked at me with those guilty eyes again. "Please, just stay still. The ambulance is coming. Let's talk about this later, okay?" Later? How could we talk about this later? I wanted answers now. My mind wouldn't stop racing. Was Claire involved? Was this all part of some plan, something I had been too blind to see coming? Was this their way of getting rid of me? But before I could say anything more, the flashing lights of the ambulance filled my vision, and paramedics swarmed around me. Jason was pushed back as they lifted me onto a stretcher, but I saw his face one last time before they closed the ambulance doors. The guilt. The fear. I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just an unfortunate accident. It felt deliberate. It felt like a setup. And Claire, my wife, was at the center of it. Inside the ambulance, the paramedics worked quickly, asking me questions, but I barely registered them. All I could think about was Jason. The man Claire had been so secretive about. The man she had assured me was just a coworker. But deep down, I had known something was wrong. I had seen the signs, the late nights, the hushed phone calls, the new perfume that I hadn't bought her. And now this. My mind whirled as the pieces started falling into place. Had they planned this? Was this some sick scheme to get rid of me? The pain in my body was nothing compared to the searing rage building inside me. If this was their plan, if they thought they could just hit me with a car and walk away unscathed, they were dead wrong. As the ambulance sped toward the hospital, I clenched my fists, the pain briefly subsiding in the face of one burning thought: I'm going to find out the truth. And when I do, they'll both pay. The hospital room was sterile and cold, filled with the rhythmic beeping of machines that seemed to mock my pain. My body was battered, but the physical injuries paled in comparison to the emotional storm brewing inside me. Each passing day, the realization of what Jason's presence at the accident signified gnawed at my insides, turning my thoughts dark. Claire came every day, putting on her best worried wife act. She'd sit by my bedside, her hand clasping mine tightly as if to reassure both of us that everything was fine. But the closer she got, the more I could smell that damn perfume, sweet and floral, lingering like a ghost I couldn't shake. Every time she leaned in to ask how I was feeling, I felt sickened, betrayed. One afternoon, as I struggled to prop myself up in bed, I overheard her on the phone, her voice hushed and conspiratorial. My heart raced, but I fought the urge to confront her. Instead, I turned my ear toward the door, straining to catch every word. "Jason, I can't believe this is happening," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if he finds out? What if someone saw us?" I felt a chill run down my spine. Jason. It was clear they were talking about me. I could only make out her side of the conversation, but the implications were clear: they were both in this together. "Calm down," Jason's voice came through, but it was muffled. "It was an accident. He doesn't suspect a thing. Just keep doing what you're doing. We'll get through this." I couldn't hold back any longer. I swung the door open, forcing Claire to drop her phone, her face paling as she turned to me. "What the hell is going on?" I demanded, my voice low but filled with fury. "Jake, she stammered, her eyes wide with shock. I stepped forward, the pain in my ribs flaring up, but adrenaline kept me steady. "Don't you dare lie to me. I just heard you talking to Jason. You're still involved with him, aren't you?" "It's not what you think," she pleaded, her voice rising in panic. "I was just trying to keep things calm. You know how he gets. He's worried about you finding out, that's all." "Worried about me finding out?" I echoed, incredulity bubbling up inside me. "You mean worried about getting caught? You're still seeing him after everything?" Claire opened her mouth, then shut it, searching for words that never came. "Jake, please. I didn't want you to find out like this. I thought I could end it, but..." "Thought you could end it?" I spat, incredulous. "And here I thought you were just too busy working late to pay me any attention. It was all a facade, wasn't it? You've been lying to my face." "Please, let's just talk about this calmly," she said, desperation lacing her voice. I didn't mean for it to get this far. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The audacity of it all, the layers of betrayal wrapped around my heart like a vice. "Calmly?" I nearly laughed, but it came out bitter. "You expect me to sit here and talk calmly while you're betraying me with another man? I've been laid up in this hospital because of an accident that might not have even been an accident at all." Claire flinched, tears pooling in her eyes. "I'm sorry, Jake. I never meant for you to get hurt. I thought I could manage everything without you finding out." "Manage what?" I pressed, my voice dropping to a whisper. "Manage your affair. Manage your lies. Is that what this has been about?" "I made a mistake," she finally shouted, her composure cracking. "I thought I could control it. I thought you wouldn't get hurt. I love you, but Jason, he made me feel alive again. It was stupid. It was wrong. But it happened, love. I nearly spat the word out. You think this is about love? This is about betrayal. You're not sorry because you cheated on me, you're sorry because you got caught. She opened her mouth to protest, but I didn't want to hear any more excuses. I turned away, feeling the weight of betrayal settling heavily on my chest. I need time to think, I muttered, my voice thick with emotion. You should leave. Jake, please don't do this, she begged, reaching for me, but I shrugged her off. Just go. She hesitated, looking at me as if hoping I'd change my mind. But I didn't. I was done hearing her excuses. I was done pretending that everything was okay. The door clicked shut behind her, and I was left alone with my thoughts. The only thing louder than the beeping of machines was the echo of her betrayal. In that moment, I realized that the woman I thought I knew had been living a double life. I was an outsider in my own marriage, and the realization cut deeper than any physical wound. With every breath, the anger inside me grew, slowly morphing into a resolve. If Claire was still involved with Jason, if this was all part of some sick game, then I had to find a way to expose them both. They would face the consequences for their actions. It was only a matter of time before I uncovered the truth. The days blurred together in the hospital, a haze of painkillers and half-hearted visits from Claire. Each time she came, she wore a mask of concern, but behind it was a fear I had never seen before. I knew she was terrified of losing me, terrified of being exposed, but the anger simmering inside me had morphed into something darker, a desire for revenge. After being discharged, I returned home to a house that felt like a museum of our past. Everything held memories of a life that now seemed tainted. The couch where we shared lazy weekends, the kitchen where we cooked together, and the bedroom where we had once whispered sweet nothings, it all felt foreign, tainted by her betrayal. I spent hours pacing, going over my plans, piecing together my next steps. I knew I needed proof of her affair, evidence that would show her true colors. I would confront her with it, and Jason too. They thought they could play me for a fool, but I wouldn't let them get away with it. One night, I found myself sitting in my car across the street from Claire's office. I had seen her leave earlier, dressed in that same damn perfume that sickened me. My heart raced as I watched the building, waiting for her to leave with Jason. The clock ticked on, and I felt a mix of excitement and dread. It wasn't long before I spotted them walking out together, laughter spilling between them like they hadn't a care in the world. Look at them, I muttered to myself, gripping the steering wheel tightly. Just look at them. They strolled toward Jason's car, their body language so casual, so intimate. I could hardly stand it. A sudden surge of rage pushed me out of the car. I had to confront them. I had to let them know that I knew. As I approached, I could hear snippets of their conversation. Jason's laugh cut through me like a knife. Can you believe he still has no idea? Jason said, his voice light, teasing. It's almost too easy. Shoo. You can't say things like that out loud, Claire replied, her tone half joking but edged with genuine concern. What if he hears? He's still recovering, Jason. At that moment, the world narrowed down to a single focus. I had to make them understand the depths of their betrayal. Claire! I shouted, my voice booming across the parking lot. They both turned to face me, surprise etched on their faces. Claire's eyes widened, and Jason's expression turned to one of calculated calm, a mask slipping into place. What are you doing here? Claire asked, feigning innocence, but I could see the fear lurking beneath. Don't play games with me, Claire, I snapped, fury igniting within me. I heard everything. I know about you and him. Jason stepped forward, trying to assert himself. Jake, this isn't what it looks like, really? I laughed, the sound harsh and bitter. Because it looks like you're just two cheaters trying to cover your tracks. You hit me with your car, and now you're trying to act like I'm the crazy one. Claire's face drained of color. You think I wanted any of this? She pleaded, her voice cracking. I thought we could fix things. Fix what? Your infidelity. Your lies. I stepped closer, my heart racing. You've destroyed this marriage, Claire. You've betrayed me, and I will not let you both walk away unscathed. Jason's eyes darkened, and he moved to stand in front of Claire protectively. "You need to back off, man. You're not thinking straight. Maybe you should just let it go, let it go." I scoffed, disbelief flooding my system. "You think I'm going to just forget what you've done? You're both going to pay for this, and I'm going to make sure everyone knows the truth." "Jake, please," Claire begged, stepping forward, desperation in her voice. "We can talk about this. You don't have to do anything drastic." "Drastic? You think this is drastic?" I shook my head, my resolve hardening. "This is just the beginning. You both have no idea what I'm capable of." I turned on my heel and stormed away, my heart pounding, anger coursing through my veins. I could hear Claire calling my name, but I didn't look back. I had a plan now, one that would expose their betrayal and make them feel the weight of their actions. That night, I began gathering my evidence. I had a spare phone, one I could use to record their conversations without them knowing. I set it up in my living room, strategically positioned to capture everything. I decided to let them think they had the upper hand. I'd play the grieving husband, the one still trying to salvage a marriage that was beyond repair. But I'd be waiting for the perfect moment to spring my trap. Days passed, and I remained a silent observer. I watched as Claire came and went, her secret life unfolding before my eyes. I recorded her phone calls, capturing every whispered sweet nothings shared with Jason, every lie she spun to cover her tracks. One evening, as I listened to her on the phone with him, my blood boiled. "I don't know how much longer I can keep this up," she said softly. "He's starting to get suspicious." "Just play the part," Jason replied, his voice oozing with arrogance. "He'll never find out. Just stick to the plan." I hit the stop button on my recording app, a grin spreading across my face. They thought they were clever, but they were too blinded by their own arrogance to see what was coming. With the evidence gathered, I felt a surge of power. I was no longer a victim, I was the predator. And it was time to confront them both once again, but this time with irrefutable proof. As I prepared for the final showdown, a single thought echoed in my mind: they had no idea who they were dealing with. They had underestimated my resolve, and now, the tables were about to turn. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a muted glow in my living room as I prepared for the night's surveillance operation. I had transformed my space into a makeshift investigation headquarters. The spare phone rested on the table, its screen dimmed but ready to capture every incriminating word that escaped Claire's lips. My laptop was open, filled with notes about their patterns and routines. I had become obsessed, an investigator in my own life, piecing together the betrayal like a jigsaw puzzle. Every night, Claire's phone calls with Jason echoed through the walls of our home. I listened from my makeshift hiding spot in the bedroom, the door slightly ajar. Each whispered conversation further solidified the web of deceit that I was determined to unravel. I began to see how much planning had gone into their affair, how careless they were with their words when they thought I wasn't listening. One night, Claire returned home later than usual. I could hear her heels clicking against the hardwood floor, her voice raised in a cheerful tone as she stepped into the living room. "Jake, I'm home," she called, and I couldn't help but notice the forced cheerfulness in her voice. I stayed quiet, allowing her to think everything was normal. As I peered through the slightly ajar door, I watched her freshen up in the bathroom, reapplying that damn perfume. I felt a surge of anger and disgust, knowing it was all part of the charade. After a few moments, her phone rang. I couldn't see the screen, but I recognized Jason's ringtone from the countless times I had heard it before. Claire answered, and I leaned closer, my heart pounding with anticipation. "Hey, babe," she purred into the phone, a softness in her voice that sent a chill down my spine. "I missed you. You missed me. What about your husband?" Jason's voice teased, and I clenched my fists, a mix of rage and hurt coursing through me. "Shoo. He's in the other room," Claire hissed, glancing nervously toward the bedroom door. "Just be careful, okay? He's getting suspicious." I told him I was working late. "Just keep playing your part," Jason replied, his tone dripping with confidence. "He'll never suspect a thing. And besides, this is almost over." Just think of the payout we'll get when the time is right. I felt my blood run cold at his words. They weren't just cheating, they were plotting something sinister. The thought of insurance money hung in the air like a dark cloud, amplifying the betrayal. I had to capture this. I slid back into the room and activated the recording app on my phone, my heart racing as I prepared to document the evidence. Let's just make sure we don't rush things, Claire said. I can't stand the thought of him finding out, but we're almost there. Just a little longer. Trust me, Claire. It'll all be worth it. Just keep him convinced you're the perfect wife. He won't know what hit him, Jason replied, a smugness evident in his tone. As the conversation continued, I kept my composure, holding my breath as I captured every detail. The way she laughed, the way she said his name, it felt like a knife twisting in my gut. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow, Claire said, her voice turning sweet again. Just text me when you're on your way. I love you. With that, she ended the call, and I quickly saved the recording, my heart racing. I had what I needed, proof that would lay bare their treachery for all to see. Over the following days, I continued to gather evidence. I set up hidden cameras around the house, utilizing the ones that hadn't been unpacked from my old tech hobby. Each camera was carefully positioned to capture Claire's comings and goings, as well as any clandestine meetings with Jason. One afternoon, as I reviewed the footage, I caught a glimpse of Claire in the kitchen, her phone pressed to her ear again. Yeah, I can't believe he bought it, she said, laughter bubbling from her lips. I told him I was at the office working on a project. He's so clueless. Good, Jason replied, his voice crackling through the video feed. You're doing great, babe. Just keep him in the dark a little longer. We'll be able to live the life we've always dreamed of soon. I felt my hands tighten around the edge of the desk, my knuckles white. The anger surged within me, but I channeled it into a calculated resolve. This was not just about revenge anymore, it was about reclaiming my life. Later that evening, Claire returned home and plopped down on the couch, her usual routine disrupted by the weight of the secrets we both harbored. She turned on the television, the light flickering across her face, illuminating her hidden guilt. I walked into the living room, feigning ignorance. Hey, how was your day? Oh, you know, she said, forcing a smile. Same old, same old. Just busy with work. Busy with work? I asked, trying to mask the bitterness in my voice. I thought we could have dinner together tonight. You seem to be out a lot lately. She paused, looking at me with a flash of fear before forcing a smile. I've just been caught up with a project. You know how it is, right? Sure, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Just make sure you're not too busy for your husband. Claire's smile faltered for a moment, and I could see the flicker of worry in her eyes. Of course, Jake. I'd never forget about you. Good, I replied, my voice colder than intended. Because I need to feel like I can trust you. She nodded, but I could see the tension in her shoulders. I decided it was time to push the envelope a little further. You know, I've been thinking about getting away for a weekend. Just the two of us. What do you say? Her eyes widened slightly, and I could see her brain working, calculating how to respond. That sounds nice. I could use some time to unwind. Great, I said, suppressing a smile. Let's plan something. After she agreed, I retreated to my room, the anger still simmering beneath the surface. I felt a sense of satisfaction in seeing her flustered, knowing she was walking on eggshells. As the days went on, I captured more evidence, secret texts, late-night phone calls, and even their laughter shared over dinner at a restaurant, where I knew they thought they were safe. The evidence piled up, each recording adding weight to the case I would build against them. One night, I caught Claire talking to Jason again, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. I feel guilty every time I see him, but I can't lose you. I need you in my life. Jason's reply was laced with charm and manipulation. You won't lose me, Claire. Just stick to the plan, and soon you'll be free to live the life we've dreamed about. This is just a temporary hurdle. I ended the recording and sat back in my chair, a grim smile spreading across my face. I was no longer a victim, I was a man with a plan. Claire and Jason had underestimated me, and soon they would face the consequences of their betrayal. With each piece of evidence I collected, the reality of my revenge crystallized in my mind. I was ready to expose them both, to unveil the truth behind their lies. And when I finally confronted them again, it wouldn't just be a confrontation, it would be the reckoning they never saw coming.